Hey Facebooks. How you doing? I'm in a great mood today. I'm not gonna lie. I'm so happy to be here. It is What Up Wednesday. I got it right. And we are gonna talk about the following things today. Please be noted. We are going to talk about, hang on, how to encourage players to talk to umpires, especially the youngins. We are gonna talk about red cards. And we are going to talk about intentionally raised hits on the field that aren't dangerous. Like, it's so easy. You guys give me these grapefruits every week, and I'm like, yeah, I got this. I'm going to hit this out of the ballpark. So I am really excited about today's topic. So let me know who's here. I want to say hi to people. That's something I really enjoy doing all the time. And I'll chat for a little bit to get everybody warmed up and into the groove. I don't know if you can tell, but well, first of all, I have upgraded my lights in the home studio. Morning, Simon. Good to see you. My pedant in chief is online and ready to correct my grammar. Thanks, buddy. I've upgraded my lights and I've upgraded my camera. So I think this is coming to you in 1080p now, which, like, let's face it, this looks so much better. I'm pretty excited. It's fun. I was gonna go all mirrorless DSLR and all that kind of stuff, but I did not have that money to drop. So I went with a Logitech Rio camera. If you want to know more about that, contact me in the comments and I'll let you know what's going on. Graham Wilcock, great to see you. Thanks for coming on board. Sharon, good to see you. Marvo is here and he is the one responsible for the red card discussion. So thanks, buddy. Actually, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. I feel good. It's we had a bit of a fall preview. I think yesterday, yeah, whatever. One of those nights, it went down to -1. We had a little bit of frost. Everybody's tomato plants and that sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, well, hashtag Calgary weather. This is what's happening. But it's going to be. I think it's going up to 26 today. It's going to be 26 tomorrow. So I'm going kayaking to the mountains again because I have to take these moments. I tend to work through the weekends and it's way too busy in the mountains these days on the weekends to go out there. So I'm going to do it on Thursday. Corey and I are going to unfold the Oru kayaks and we're going to get going on the lake. So looking forward. Ian, great to see you. And Liam, awesome. I'm always glad to see you guys, especially the repeat people. It's fun. I've been watching the news and watching how England in particular has been returning to competitive hockey. I think Ireland is on the way. Wales is maybe. I know they've been doing some level 1 umpire training. Congrats to everybody who's doing the course over there. And the response I got back was, well, we're not really sure about our season. So I'm not sure what's happening there. If you're in Wales, let me know what's happening. I would like to know. Harrison's on board and he's saying that this is going to be a bath time distraction. For you, I'd say keep the electronics away from your bath. Okay? Candles, champagne, fine, but keep the laptop away. I want you to live through this day, Matt. Okay? Gary is here. Great to see you as well. And yeah, I think we're going to get started because it's going to be, well, the way that I ramble, it kind of takes a little while to go through. But I want you guys to make sure that as we're going along, please put your questions and thoughts and that sort of thing in the comments. I am going to try to be a little less distracted today and go through what I want to talk about. And then by then, hopefully you guys will have filled in some of the questions and then I'll come back to them all at once. Like I'm an organized, skilled, live talker person. I don't know what that person is. Who knows? Oh, hey, good to see you, Zed. I would expect that. I was wondering why you said video bonbon. I was like, this is just like a little bite of candy. Okay, I like it. There you go. Yes, Graham is saying that Crispy is what's happening in Wales. You're absolutely right, but if I get all my news from Crispy, then it's it's just a little bit one-sided. I want to hear from more people. It's always good. And Harrison's trying to clarify that it's his daughter's bath time. Yeah, okay. It's okay. Self-care is good, okay? Especially these days. Look after yourself and be good to yourself. I'm good to myself with a beautiful LED, soft boxed light and a new Logitech camera. That's my version of self-care. Am I doing it right? Okay. Let's get into the material because there are some really good questions today. I'm very glad. What I'm really enjoying is that people are getting the vibe of this, that I want to have things thrown at me that we can have a more expansive conversation about, and something that I can't condense into a little 3 or 4 minute Really Tuesday video. This is more skills and interpretations and that kind of thing. And these are things that, again, it's not black and white. I'm not telling you always that this is absolutely the right way to do it, but these are ideas. These are suggestions. These are things that have worked for me, worked for my colleagues, worked for people who have trained me, and they might work for you. So take that all into account and feed back to me and let me know what you think. Robert Ware's here. Great. 10 minutes. Okay, mind the language. All right. Sorry. Last week was a little much, but I'm in a sunshiny mood. It's going to be fine. And David Alcock's on board. Everything is great with me. Thanks for tuning in. You want to find out what I'm going to say for the last topic. That won't be for about 40 minutes. So buckle in. Okay, let's talk about this. Let me get onto my iPad split screen. This is a question. Let me lock that aspect ratio for us. That I was supposed to get to last week. And Rajiv, thank you so much for your patience on this. And it was really nice to see you on the MQA conference this weekend. Good to put a voice face Zoom picture to the name. And this is what Rajiv wanted me to talk about. How do we encourage players, especially the younger ones, to talk to the umpires after the game? In my experience, no umpire, like players, deliberately want to make a mistake. Therefore, without being critical, players and umpires should speak after the game to understand what happened, why it happened, and how it can be improved in the future. As Simon said, because he got this inspiration from Simon Mason's appearance on Umpire at Home. As Simon said, there is no winner, and collaboration is much better than competition. And truer words were never spoken. So if you're interested in finding out what Simon had to say about umpire and player communication, go back to that Umpire at Home episode. You can find it if you go to FHumpires.com/tag/umpire at home, you'll find it. I'll put a link in the comments eventually, or somebody else will help me out with that. That would be great. So this one is really interesting because I came through an experience myself, I gotta say, where I came from umpiring here domestically in Canada and international experience. And then in 2006, 2007, I've forgotten now, I think it was 2006. Yes, it was. I went over to England and started a kind of a guest tenure in the MPUA in the National League. And man, do they do things differently over there than what we do in Canada. I've always wanted to be an approachable umpire and somebody that players could talk to, but the formalized approach that the MPUA has about ensuring that there is that exchange between the umpires and members of the teams after the game was just absolutely mind-blowing for me. And what I realized is that is one of the reasons why there is such a good relationship between the umpires and the teams in the National League, is because they do have this mandated approach where they have to sit down at tees afterwards. And if you don't, it's not good. It's not a good look. So you've got the tees afterwards, you've got communication from the teams beforehand and afterwards, and feedback process and all that sort of thing. So that would be sort of my first suggestion, is that if it's important to your competition level, whatever it is, your local league, your tournament, your whatever, build it into something, build it into your schedules, build it into your maybe even your regulations, something like that. Because what you schedule out and what you formalize is a priority, and then it happens. So that would be the first thing. I was thinking about this as well, that I know that we look at players and coaches as being sort of another kind of a different species of hockey people. We're all Badgers, but maybe there's some differences there. And I thought about the way that I go about, for example, interacting with cats. I'm not really a cat person. So I ignore cats. And my friend Rob Turville over there on Guernsey can attest that his cats down in Loretta, within about half an hour of me being at his place and completely ignoring his cats, they were all over me because I was ignoring them. All that to say, players aren't cats, okay? If you ignore them, they are going to ignore you, okay? They also aren't like dogs, where they just want to talk to you no matter what. Hi, 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 give me a pet, hi, hi, hi. They're not like that at all. They're kind of like, more like horses. When you first approach them, sometimes they're a little skittish. And the best way to get into, and I'm not an expert, so I'm totally spitballing here, but I understand that it might be a technique with horse people that you just try to familiarize yourself in that environment, and you kind of, you might walk up to their paddock and their fence and don't look straight at them, but just kind of hang out with them and let them get used to you being there. And then maybe you happen to have a carrot in your hand and you kind of hold it out. I'm like, oh, I wonder if anybody wants this carrot. And you work on that slowly and consistently. You be there, you show up over and over again, and you interact in a positive way with them outside of that training sort of setting or that competition setting. So, for example, things that I picked up when I was staying up north when I was in England, and my home club, I guess you could call it, ended up being Durham University, because that's the National League side I was closest to. And Gavin Featherstone at the time was the head coach, and he was the head coach of basically the whole program. And he kind of adopted me because I was lost. And one of the ways I think he realized that he could do that and have that relationship with me is that I asked him for help. So I walked up to him and said, hi, I would like to umpire as much as I can. And do you have matches that you need umpires for? And what happens up here? And who are these people? And how does the system work? And I had so many questions. And that gave him something to talk to me about other than just what I was doing on the pitch on an ongoing basis. So that was another thing. Talk to players and coaches about things that aren't necessarily umpiring, but maybe talking about them. Now it's starting to sound like a dating show, but work with me here, okay? This is going to work. You want to show that you care about the players and the coaches as hockey people, and when you get to know them better as people. And to do that, it's good to express interest in what their hockey lives are like. Like, hey, one of the standard things that I know a lot of umpires do is ask, hey, how'd you get on last weekend? How was the match? How was the weather? That sort of thing. Oh, what do you have coming up? Tell me about your, so some of the young players coming up in your team. You might talk to a player and you might say, hey, that aerial you threw last week was pretty dope. Like, oh, how did you do that? Or something that shows interest in them. And then when it comes time to have those more difficult conversations after the match about, hey, remember that call back, in the third quarter that you really didn't like? Let's go through that a little bit, because I'd like to hear your thoughts, and let me give you my thoughts as well. And those get a lot easier when you have that basis of human rapport. You've shown yourself to be a human person. You've shown yourself to be interested in them, and then they're a little more interested in you. Let's see, thanking players for giving you a fun game. And maybe it's not always like, ha ha ha, that's great fun, but maybe it was a challenging game, or there was a great competition or great skill. you can thank players for that, because I mean, I'm grateful when I go out and umpire and I've had a good experience. And we say no umpires, no games, but also no players, no games. So it's good to express that gratitude and acknowledge that this is a symbiotic process. And that would, I think that's a really positive approach. And then one of the biggest things when you're dealing, especially with younger players, is they are learning their team, their club, their program culture from their senior leadership and especially their coaching staff. So approaching the coaching staff and saying, hey, look, it's really important to me that I establish a dialogue with not only you, but also the players, because this is a valuable skill. This is going to help them be better players in the future. It's going to help me be a better umpire. So I'm going to perform better when I'm on your matches and all the matches in this competition. How about you help me out and introduce me to one of the players? Sit down when I'm talking to one of your young players and help guide me, and when you ask for that assistance, I can't imagine many coaches that wouldn't fall over themselves. We're like, oh, you want to help us. Oh, great. Instead of it being that more competitive authority figure feeling. From your perspective, or from your side as an umpire, this means that you're going to have to commit. You need to be consistent. You need to show up early, and you need to be prepared to stay late. And if your practice is just to kind of rock up to a match and then rock away, it's going to be hard. So you need to give in that extra bit of time. And if you're willing to do it, it will pay back in those rewards. And do it consistently over and over again. I hope that's a good start. So a couple of you have been posting a few things. I'll get to those. But if you have other ideas and other perspectives that you want me to take into account and share, I would love to. Let's see. Oh, great. Of course, Harrison would bring this up. What do you think of the opinion that it's harder to gain rapport in the women's game than men's? Now, this came up in the MQA conference this weekend. Matt's awesome partner, Hannah Harrison, otherwise known just to me as the Colonel, was doing a presentation on fitness and preparation, and somehow we got into this chat in the Zoom about building rapport with players, and I was absolutely shocked at how many people, including the women who were participating, said, oh, female players don't want to talk. They're just, they're just unfriendly. Okay. I'm going to take my time for a second. I have absolutely noticed that there's a difference. And I found this obviously only in places where I've been able to experience a lot of men's hockey, and that is over in England. Here in Canada, we just don't have as much, especially in my area. So I can't really, speak to that anymore because my basis of comparison isn't very, it's not a good data set. But over in England, there was definitely a difference. But I think that we bear a lot of responsibility for that. I think that our views that women's hockey is inferior to men's hockey, and the better umpires end up getting put on men's games because, you have to be really good at your men's games. It's faster, it's more skilled, it's all these things. You end up getting a history of women who get, more often, lower standard umpires, who aren't as good at communicating, who don't put the effort in, who aren't as professional in their approach. And that's what they're accustomed to. And if I was a woman playing in England, I'd be pretty, I wonder if Robert were still, okay, I would be very effing resentful of that framework of appointing and promotion and adjudicating of umpire skill. So there's that. There's also the culture, the belief that we're all conditioned to think right from the beginning that, that this is somehow endemic in women's hockey. It bloody well isn't. And if you want to go to other gender tropes and stereotypes, what about this whole thing that women are all about building consensus community? Well, if that's the case, then why don't they want to talk to the umpires? I believe they do, but I believe they've been frustrated and they've been told and they've been raised on the expectation not to talk to umpires. So let's just ditch that altogether, because the same things that work in talking to male players work in talking to women players. You ask them about how they're doing, you ask them for their honest opinions, you show gratitude, you show respect, all of those things. It works. And let's see, what else can I cover? David, let me know, what did I forget to mention in that diatribe about this conversation? I really think we got to ditch that fast. And if we make that better effort and we show every player that they are important, and every team, every club, every league, that they have a role to play in the development of the way that we play, which includes umpires in that process, then we are going to, the rewards will build. It will pay dividends. And I mean, what if, let me just throw this out here because I have zero data to back this up, but what if women's hockey would be better if umpires were spending more time talking to female players? What about that? How do we know how these factors interrelate, and what's causal, what's correlation? I don't know, but it's an idea. I've really, just going back to more positive things, I can say that all of the skills that I learned and all the practices and habits I built up in England, talking to players and talking to coaches, I brought back here to Calgary. And now in appropriate, tournament settings, it's really hard in our league because we play and umpire, all of us. So we don't really have this whole, hey, going back to the pub for tea sort of thing. But in tournament settings, for example, the University of Calgary Dinos, I'm now usually managing when it comes to those games. They're so good. They always invite the umpires out for a bite to eat and a drink afterwards. And I always go. It's a fantastic time for me to sit down with the coaching staff and with some alumni and have just a complete chinwag about hockey in general, the game, stuff that's happening, community. It's all that rapport building, and it is so great. And part of that is because I've been really trying to get across to all the high performance people and in every kind of competition, like, let's talk to each other, let's be more friendly, let's be friends and let's interact, and it's going to benefit us all. And that's female competition. And I've found that the Dinos players are so willing to come and talk to me and ask questions and talk to the umpires. There's not this us and them approach. So I don't believe it. I believe it's what we do culturally, it's what we do habitually, and it's the expectations we set up. Now set up the expectation in your jurisdiction that everybody wants to talk, and they will. Bam! Mic drop, done. Oh, let's see what's being said here. So in response, Harrison, if you're a tosser off the pitch, you're likely to be a tosser on the pitch. Truth. Show interest in people, be polite and be honest, and you're likely to form more positive relationships, whether they are male or female or even Canadian. I see you, Harrison. I see you. Comment from Mr. Alcock. I think we need to ditch the gender stereotypes. Not all women are quiet and unwilling to talk to umpires. Not all men are testosterone-driven morons. Okay, no, you're right. I'm just totally kidding. How about we treat everyone as we find them? Yeah. And how about we treat everybody like a ongoing process? People aren't one way. They are all learning. We are all changing. And even, for Matt, even if you are show behavior, tosser-like behavior off the pitch and on the pitch, maybe you can learn to be less of a tosser as an umpire, because maybe that has built up in you over some bad experiences that you've had in the past. And in order to shift your thinking, shift your approach, you need to have some of that positivity and see some results from the efforts that you make. So I think there's tons of room for change. Meg, what do you have to say here? As a female coach, I feel sometimes talked down to by male umpires and have some fun. Found some male umpires will speak differently to male coaches. Yeah. Wait, are you saying that there's sexism? Yes, Meg, I feel that pretty much every day when I'm doing what I'm doing as FHumpires. So I get it. And we just have to keep fighting that fight for the credibility. I find it's very interesting that, we don't have that in Canada. I don't think. I think it's that systemic sexism is still there, but it's buried even a little bit further. And I don't see it as evidentially in our case. But the fact that you see that in the States is, I'm not too happy about that. But again, it's culture, it's learning, and we can change these habits and we can call these things out. And who knows, maybe one of those times that you're having a conversation that, after the game that isn't about the game, you might be talking to coaches about, hey, have you ever noticed that when we're talking that there's a little bit of a different tone than when you're talking to a male umpire? How do you feel about that? Is that something that is important to you? Is that something that you've ever thought about? Because it's something I'm thinking about. And raising that little personal awareness and not being accusatory about it, but just talking it through, it might help. I don't know. Let me know what you think there. Meg, the better half. Stephen, umpired a ladies over 585 cup match on Sunday. One player I first umpired 20 years ago came over to chat before the game and then sent a message later that evening to say how much she enjoyed the game. Yes. Right? And I'm sure we all have anecdotal evidence on both sides of that spectrum. And that's why I really think that if we approach it as this is a universal need in our game, it's almost like saying to somebody, well, women don't like to score goals. So, why should we work at it? Scoring goals is how you win games in men's hockey or women's hockey. The rules are bloody well the same. Getting better as umpires and getting players better at understanding umpiring is equally important in the women's game as the men's game. End of story. I feel like I'm saying really ridiculously obvious things. There you go. That's what I got there. I hope that is somewhat helpful. And I would also like to just make sure, okay, if I ever have anything stuck in my teeth or if I have eyeliner below on my face, please tell me. I've noticed that in broadcasts and it's really annoying. If you have anything else you want to contribute on this, I'm going to take a sip of my tea and wait for a text to come in. Otherwise, I am going to move on to topic 2 because, oh my God, it's already been almost half an hour. Oh. It's amazing how time flies when you're talking to yourself. It's just like when I was 7 years old and all I did was talk to myself. I had a lot of friends. Okay. So before we move on to the next topic, just really, really quickly, I just want to remind you that, oops, well, that was the wrong button. That's okay. That if you are getting value out of these sessions, there is a third team program that I've set up on FHU and FHumpires.com. I have levels of membership. You can express your support almost like a patron with $3 US a month if you feel that's appropriate. And it helps me do things like buy lights so that I look good on camera. Very important. So don't hesitate to go look at that. There's green, yellow, all that kind of stuff. And that's on FHU3T.com. And also I have my next workshop coming up. And these workshops that I'm doing. I'm trying a few different things. So this is kind of like a tester, and I did a positioning one last month that went really, really well. I'm gonna probably change my approach a little bit for aerials. Haven't quite decided yet, but aerials on September 23rd. So if you are interested, please go to FHumpires.com/workshop. And if you happen to slip an S on the end of workshops, so it'll take you to the same place, because I made that mistake. There you go. So places you can go, things you can see, and more learning to be done. I absolutely, the positioning workshop was amazing. I really enjoyed it. It was super intense. And I think I'm just really struggling turning off my overlays. Sorry. And yeah, a good time was had by all. And I'm looking forward to doing aerials as well. It's going to be challenging, no question, but I'm ready for it. Let's see, last comment here from Sharon. Let me put this up on the last topic. I know as a player, I like seeing familiar faces in the umpiring crowd. I have my favorites. They're both male and female. These favorites are umpires who have the proper demeanor along with being highly proficient umpires. I wish to emulate them as an umpire. There you go. We know that good is good all over the place. Okay, Marvo, it's your time to shine. Let's get to the next topic. Oops. Here we go. So ignore the name of the top. Sorry, I should have blurred it out because it doesn't apply to you. This is from Marvo, and he brought up, at first I was like, 2.3H. There's no equipment rule, 2.3H, but this is from the back of the rule book. And I have to admit, I do not delve into this area very often because the rules committee doesn't delve into this area very often. It's guidance, and maybe not completely up-to-date guidance, but some of it still holds true. But this, anyway, this was his question. Basically, help us to define a player who misbehaves in a please define serious manner. And I translated that to, when do you give a straight red? And he said, yep. So let's just see. Oh yeah, that is 2.3H. Is that showing up? I sure hope so. When a player, and this is what 2.3H reads, when a player misbehaves in a serious manner towards another player, umpire, or other match official, the red card must be shown immediately. Okay, so I would like to know, first of all, from all of you, how many of you have given a red card and how many? Give me your answers, because I want to know. And I mean a straight red card, not a traffic light, or not a second yellow that must be a red. Straight red. Let me know. I have given one. I've given one, and I'll tell the story in a sec, but I want to go through what my criterion is for giving a straight red card. And if you have anything you want to contribute with that, if you have different ideas, also put them in the comments. Marvo is saying he has never given a red card. Simon, Chief Pedant, 1, 3 in 20 years for David Elcock. Sharon, you haven't had to give one yet? Okay. Yeah, it's obviously something that, well, we haven't done too much, unless you're Adam Ganga? Tell me if I got that right. Adam has given 4, unfortunately. And Gary, just not a straight red, just a red upgrade. Hey, stranger, I'm going to put you up because, hi, nice to meet you. Ingeborg, 3 in 40 years of umpiring. And I probably slaughtered your name, sorry. Catherine, none. And let's see. Dave, 1 given, 1 received. Yeah, we're gonna have a talk, you and I. DM me, because we got to sort this out. Ian's given 1 straight red and 1 traffic light in 15 years. Okay, so this is my criterion. This is what I let my umpires know when I'm managing them. And sorry, I develop a consensus amongst my umpiring team as to what our straight reds would be. Because so few of us have given one, it's often hard to develop that criterion. And that's why we have this question, like, what are the circumstances? So this is what I have. Number one, violence that is offered or given. So you swing at somebody and you miss with your stick or with your fist, or you connect. That's violence offered or given. The second grounds, I would call them the unforgivable isms: racism, homophobia, damn it, I ruined it already. Transphobia, so IAs or isms. Okay. Ableism, anything that I believe is an offense against an easily identifiable group that I believe is a form of, verbal violence against that group, I have no tolerance for. And I don't think anybody should too. And it was interesting because I was thinking about this and I was going through the list. Okay, racism, homophobia, transphobia, going through this. Why is misogyny not on that list for me? And I'm not sure. I'm challenging myself with this because it concerns me. It concerns me that this is the first time I've thought, well, what if somebody does come out with a misogynist comment? How something true, truly misogynist, that if you phrased it as a racist comment, you would have that immediate, this is a red card sort of reaction. What do you think? Let me know. So that's my second. My third, and this might be controversial for you guys because I have heard this happening to other umpires more often than I've ever heard it in my own milieu. The third is accusation of cheating by an umpire, being called biased or being called a cheat. I have, again, no tolerance for that. You can tell me that I'm terrible. You can tell me that I've made hundreds of mistakes. You can tell me that my inability to understand the rules of the game have completely ruined your experience. You can question and slate my competency without going to a straight red. But when you say that I have deliberately ruined a match for one side or another and determined the outcome intentionally, that is a direct attack on my character as a human being and as a participant in the hockey community, and I will not stand for it. It's never happened to me, but I'm just saying that's where my standards are. What do you think? Have you been accused of being a cheat or biased in the past? I don't know. So let's talk a couple stories about red cards while we're waiting for a little bit more feedback from you guys. Elcock is telling us that he's given one for a headbutt, one for calling my colleague a cheating C-word. There you go. That's the third category right there. One traffic light for swearing. I could have handled that last better. It was as much my fault as his. Don't internalize. But I understand. We do have management techniques that we can help to mitigate those situations. And swearing is an interesting one because, as you know, I don't have a problem with swearing per se. I have a problem with aggression. And aggression can be augmented by swearing, but swearing doesn't make something aggressive, and it certainly doesn't necessarily mean it's targeted. I remember the first time I heard the C word on the pitch, and of course it was in England because we do not use that word over here. Absolutely not. It is the unforgivable curse. And I was umpiring, I think, on the University of Durham pitch. I don't know which team it was, but I heard a player say the word, and it wasn't directed at me. I knew that. But I kind of walked up behind the player. So, it was off on the other sideline and somebody was getting the ball and I was in the circle and I walked up behind this guy and I said, you know what? If I had heard the C word come out of your mouth, I would take a pretty dim view of that. But I'm really glad that I just didn't quite catch it. And he sort of looked over his shoulder at me and was like, yeah, okay, warning taken. And that was enough. My personal standards are one thing, but the standards that I need to employ for the entire match, for the people who are standing and watching, for maybe TV cameras that are on, audio that gets picked up, anything like that, that's different. So I tend to be okay with swearing as long as it's not so loud that people around the pitch are going to hear it, and you sure better not direct it to one of your opposition or direct it at me. That's probably it. Matt, you're telling us none as of yet. Hopefully that's how it stays. Elcock, you're saying that you baited him and you were foolish. That's okay. We all make mistakes. Boy, if I could tell you about all my serious card mistakes, we do not have enough time in this broadcast for that. Stephen was accused of cheating at the end of a match and gave the player an MMO. Rightly so. Simon, swinging a stick at an opponent didn't actually make contact, but it was clearly deliberate. Yeah, absolutely. Gary saying the Unforgivable Curse. I think I own that album. I watched that movie. Yeah. And so Ian, he's saying that he went through a traffic light, but it would have been a straight red anyway because he was called nothing cheat. Well, this is good. I'm glad to hear this feedback from you guys, that you agree that questioning your impugning your character as an objective and an objective arbiter of the game, that you won't tolerate that. I'm glad. That makes me feel good. Let me tell you about my red card, because it's a fun story, the way that I tell it. So I am in Brazil, umpiring at the Pan Am Challenge, and I think this was about 2011-ish, I don't know. And I was umpiring the mighty powerhouses of Brazil and Bermuda. And Brazil was just starting their program because they had the Olympics next year. The women had not qualified because they haven't achieved the markers that the FIH had wanted in terms of victories and qualifications. The men, of course, did qualify and did get to play in the Olympics. But anyway, it was a very fledgling Brazilian team and a lot of really skilled footballers. They were not hockey players, they were footballers. So I've awarded a free hit to Bermuda, and their center back comes up to take the ball, and she is not a small woman. She is very sturdy, quite tall, and she steps up to take this hit, and she takes a little dribble. So a Brazilian forward comes into press, and she misses and collides with the Bermudian player. And it was okay. Wait, let me show it. Okay, it was literally like she collides with the Bermudian player, and she just fell over, just foot, boom, just straight down on the ground. Some could argue that's a footballer play anyway, and I accept that argument. And the Bermudian just sort of looked down at her and went, huh, and smacked the ball up the field. Now, this is the time where a lot of us would take our eyes off the play and would, look to where the ball's going. And the ball was heading right into my colleague's primary responsibility. So I wasn't too concerned. Plus, I was kind of amused at this Brazilian falling over quite that. So I had my eyes on her, and the Bermudian, in the process of taking that hit, had stepped in front of her. Brazilian, from on her knees, takes her stick and whack right across the back of her shins. It's like, what? And so I, out of the corner of my eye, see that nothing really important's happening with my colleague, but I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting for advantage. I don't care if it's a bully. This is the only time where I think a bully is acceptable, when I have to give a red card. Stop time. I'm like, yeah, okay. And it just felt so inevitable, I guess. I didn't have to be angry. I didn't have to be upset. Luckily, the Bermudian player was very calm about it. I mean, obviously, it wasn't injurious to her or anything like that, but it was not cool. And yeah, the Brazilian trotted off, and red cards aren't as big of a deal in football, I guess, because they happen more often. I don't know. I'm not an expert. And that was it. The player got a 1-match ban, and I was not impressed with that as a reward. That was, that was that. So I'm going to show you a clip from, this is the Commonwealth Games, and I want to know your thoughts on it, because it's got a little bit going on in it. Hopefully this is going to work. Oh, you can't see my face. That's okay. I'll fix it. So we're going to have to see this on the replay a couple times. And yes, this is Canada playing South Africa. And we've just had an incident, and you can see the umpire is explaining to the player what she's doing and why she's giving the card. First of all, I don't think you need to go into that extended dialogue. You're inviting the player in for an exchange that you don't need to have, but this is what's happening. The Canadian player loses control. I believe they call that a can opener, and then the South African turns around and retaliates. And there is a reaction. Let me play it again for you so that you can see it in all its glory. In all its not glory. I can't take away this dot because otherwise you won't be able to hear me. But I'll try to fix that. So this is a problem that we have quite a bit when we're umpiring, where we see one thing, but there was something that led up to it beforehand. And yeah, the end result of this was a yellow. I don't remember if supplementary discipline was imposed after this. Thoughts from you? Is the first action by the Canadian player worthy of a card and worthy of a red card to you? Is the retaliatory action by the South African worth more than a yellow card to you? Because it's funny, I was watching that just for that last time and I thought, oh, maybe the ball was close. The one thing that distinguishes a straight red card from me from a long, juicy 10-minute yellow is that the violence, the action is not a hockey play. So we've talked a few times on other broadcasts and things like that about the Tim Brand incident. And this was on Umpire at Home with Thomas Briel. And we were going through a Belgium-Australia game. And late in the match, there was a referral for an entanglement in the circle where it was Leipart and Brand, and they were doing the whole stick tuggy thing, and Brand pulled really hard, and it hit Leipart in the face a little bit. Leipart went down like a footballer, blah, blah, blah. There was a referral, and the recommendation came back for no team penalty because the ball was out of play at the time. I insist on that. But a yellow card, a 10-minute yellow card was given. And a lot of people thought that that needed a red. And for me, that's still a hockey play. It's a terribly reckless and dangerous hockey play, but he's trying to do something hockey-ish. When you turn around and you swing at somebody, that's got nothing to do with hockey. It's got nothing to do with the game. The ball and your ability to play the ball and your ability to play, it's got nothing to do with that. You're just being violent. So that to me is the distinction between a yellow and a red. So what did you think of that clip? And was that a yellow or red? Let's see. Adam, I'll come back to your comment on systemic sexist language later because it's very worthy. But let's see. Catherine, wow, that's a red. Simon, 2 reds there. And Catherine, 2 wrongs to make a right. Yellow for the Canadian as well. Canada yellow from Marvo. I hope you're adding that to the yellow for South Africa. And let's see, for Matt, there was intent there for sure, which for me could mean that you could upgrade to a straight red. And oh, and SA red from Marvo, there we go. Canadian player probably deserved a yellow for the initial action from Maddie. So red for SA, yellow for Canada. From Catherine, Gary, red card for retaliation for the South African, a yellow card for the Canadian. And let's see. Elcock, the retaliation is definitely a red card. It's a deliberately violent act. I'm not sure about the initial play by the Canadian player. I'm not sure it's totally intentional. I think I'd yellow card if I saw that. And red for South Africa, 10-minute yellow for Canada. Yeah, so I think we've got a really big, we've got a solid consensus here. Good work, people. God, you're smart as well as being good looking. There was definitely something that was reckless and dangerous in the Canadian player putting the stick between the legs. Now, when you kind of get caught in that, maybe it's, you could actually make things worse by trying to extricate yourself. But absolutely, I think that's yellow cardable, whether it's a 5 or a 10. I've been feeling 10 for 2 years, and then I saw that again just right now and thought, oh, actually, maybe. But no, I think a 10-minute yellow there would have been worthy. But our eyes get drawn to the more overt actions, and those are the things that we tend to see to penalize. So it's worthy to take your time, and maybe in a situation like that, when you stop time and you're going to give a card, the first thing you do is you ensure, if you can, that the players aren't getting entangled. So you pull the player away that you're not happy with, and you just say, hey, you over here for now, stay there for a second. And you get together with your colleague and you have a conversation, because your colleague may have seen something different. You might say to them, hey, did you see why that happened? Was there anything? Did something happen earlier in the game? Do you have any information that you can contribute? Did you see what I saw? Or do you have something else? And then you can go about addressing the situation. Take your time, right? A red card is a big decision. And by rushing through that, maybe you limit your ability to fully assess what the problem was there. Dave agrees it's a red for the reaction, and Ingeborg agree yellow for the first action, red for the retaliation. Yeah, absolutely. So these are the things, and I mean, I know I have bottled reds more often than I've gotten them right, because I got one red right. I completely missed a red in a tournament in 2006, and I'll tell this long story some other time, but this is the whole reason I went to England, was this one game. And there was a melee, and I got into the middle of it, and I missed a red card because I was right in the middle of it. I couldn't see. My vision was so narrow. I was so busy being a hero and running in there like, you over there. And I was literally pulling jerseys and pulling like the scruff of their neck. You over there, and pulling them apart. And yeah, it was a women's game, that I missed the most important part of the whole thing. So there you go. Harrison, is there merit in considering the order in which you give the cards? I'm correcting your grammar. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. You tell me, Matt. Maybe you've had an incident where you've given a yellow and a red. I think that I would tend to deal with the red card first, and I'm suspecting that would be your approach too, because you're not trying to build dramatic suspense. It's not yellow, woo, red. It's like, whoa. You're not appealing to the crowd and building to a climax. What you're trying to do is to deal with the worst situation first, and whether you've got the captains nearby so you can be explaining to them, not the player involved, you explain to them perhaps very quickly why you're doing what you're doing. But you might have the captains on and say, this person swung her stick in retaliation and struck her opposition. That's a straight red. And boom, you give that, off they go. However, I saw that there was there was a reckless use of the stick by your opponent, and that also deserves a yellow card. And then off they go. It's not like it's going to be a secret for very long. So I hope to I hope that, like, does that make sense to you guys? That's how I would feel it, but maybe not. Alcock wants me to remind Dave to tell us why he got his red card. If you're into it, let us know. It's probably a matter of public record somewhere. So I've got like ninja level Google skills. So I don't think you want to test me on this one. I could go find it. I'm just kidding. If you don't want to talk about it, it's cool. If you want to talk about it, let me know. All right. I hope that covers off straight reds pretty solidly. And I think it's every umpire's ambition not to have to give a red card. Because, yeah, it's awful. And it should carry a lot of consequences. Here's the official response from Mr. Haynes. We all have a history. Let's leave it there. I get you. I support you. It was in your past. It's fine. And here's Harrison's response. He's still in the bathtub, obviously. I would go with the situation in terms of the order that I'd give the cards. If I felt I needed to get in the quick red first, but generally I would go in order. Oh, so order of incident. Yeah, that also makes sense too. I can see that. I think it's, there's a particular umpire that is very famous for doing a double draw when he needs to give two cards. Gus, this is for you. And you know, that kind of feels instinctively like something like, that would be super fun to do in a non-fun situation. But, you know, what message are you sending? Is it clear that there are two cards that are being, you know, given? Being able to address one and to use your body language to address the player with your eyes, with your stance is important. And then addressing the other player is important. And that's generally why we wouldn't want to double barrel that. There you go. Colonel! She's here. Good to see you, buddy. Gary has done it the other way around, where he's given the red card first and then given the yellow, more by accident than by design. Totally fair. Okay, that's good stuff. Oh my gosh, you guys. It is almost 1 o'clock for me. It is almost whatever time it is in the world for you. Some of you, it's evening and it's late, or it's mid-afternoon, or who knows, or you're watching this on replay. And a lot of people come in and check these things out on replay. I still have this on the screen. It's like having something in your teeth. I had a graphic on the screen that didn't need to be there. God, so embarrassed. Anyway. I mean, this has been a great chat, and I think that the third topic that I was going to get to, and this was Charlize from South Africa asking this one, and I'm just going to show really quickly because I want to give her credit. So this is Charlize. I think she's from South Africa because, again, I'm a, you know, ninja Googler, so don't mess. And she's asking about the lifted ball that is not dangerous on the hit. But because it's already been an hour, I'm going to save it for next week. So Charlize, I'm sorry if you tuned in today and you're like, oh, but trust me, it'll be even better next week because I'll have even more thoughts, more preparation, because it is a tough one. We might only talk about that for the whole hour. It is that complicated. So I think that's it for today. Really enjoyed seeing all you guys as always. And remember, if you have a topic that you would like us to hash out on a What Up Wednesday, you can put in the comments. You can send me a DM. You can text me. You can email me. You can go on the website and fill out the contact form. You can hit me up on Twitter. You can hit me up on Instagram, which I probably of all these methods, Instagram is the worst because I have the hardest time keeping track of it. But I'm good. Like I got this on lock. I got a system. I'm hopefully not letting anything slip through the cracks. And I've really been enjoying the quality questions coming in. These are really important things for us to discuss and to discuss periodically over and over again to make sure that, the game does change and our understanding evolves. I've looked back on discussions that I've partaken in a few years ago and thought, I think I have a bit of a different opinion now, or a different way of explaining it, or that sort of thing. So we can keep going through these things, but it's about developing a consensus and an understanding of what are we going to look for, what's important, what are we trying to achieve, and what little factors go into making each decision. That is my goal. That's what I'm trying to help us develop, is that kind of understanding. Because what's right or correct or leads to a certain award in one situation can be completely different because one of those little factors is different in the next. So I hope that has really helped. Catherine, you really loved it. Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited. Good luck this weekend. I hope it's an awesome game. Please let me know how it goes. Keep in touch. And Maddie, you're very welcome. Interesting. Oh, Terry, of course you're here. Good to see you. And thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you next week on the next What Up Wednesday. Ciao for now, guys.